It is now 5:30. We'll call the OnPoint board into session. I will call the attendance and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance after that. Kimberly Bartnett.
Here.
Pam Brenner.
Here.
Ben Brookhouse. Here. Jessica Castaneda is absent. Mark DeYoung. Here. Myself is here. Jane Farrell.
Here.
And we are thankful that you have joined us.
Here.
Kelsey.
Here.
Robin Blay.
Here.
Karen Stratton. Pastor Craig Van Beek here. And attendance is take all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is the provision for public comment. Is there anyone that would like to address the board? You will have 5 minutes per speaker. Please give us your name and address and go ahead and be recognized. Is there anyone in the room that would like to address the board? Hearing none. Is there anyone online?
There's no one online at the moment.
Okay, there will be a second public comment session at the end of the meeting. Hearing none wanting to ask for public comment. Would you like to have any public comment?
Yes,
Please approach.
you want my name?
Yes, name and address.
Okay, first name is spelled R-Y-A-L. The last name is spelled G-R-E-W-E. We say Gruey rather than saying Group. We live 139 Cora Street, which is above North Ward School. Yes, I want to commend some people. And by the way, I saw one of your longtime workers, Mrs. Trout, who I think worked for the agency for something like 40 years. I often wondered if she had a daughter named Brooke, but I never had the, whatever it took to, to phrase that question, but it was good to see her and in good health when she was visiting her minister brother. The people I want to commend particularly, I want to commend our hardworking, I think you call them case coordinators. I know they're not called social workers. I think they could be a little more like social workers. I think they could make visits to some of the places where people might be staying overnight. I think that might be useful. Also, there's been an outstanding OT named Becky, just utterly outstanding. A little mother of herself, recently again. And one of the people I particularly want to, who is not here, formerly Haas and now Kathy Potter. And she's just been particularly helpful. And so I want to say that. And I want to thank you for the opportunity. And if we say our prayers, we can pray for those in authority at all levels and all areas. So thank you. Take care.
Thank you very much for your comments. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Hearing none, reminding you that we do have a second update or public participation at the end of the meeting. I will close the provision for public comment at this time. And the next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions that anyone would like to add to the agenda? At this time, I would like to add two things. The LRE appointment under the chairman's and executive committee report. And also the confirmation of delegates to the annual CMHA conference in Grand Traverse Bay. And under the chairman's executive report. Is there anything else? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Motion by Alice to approve the agenda as amended. Do I hear support?
Support.
Support by Kimberly. I will take a roll call. Pam Brenner,
Agreed. Yes.
Glenn Brookhouse,
Yes.
Mark Young,
Yes.
Gail Dugan says yes. Jane Farrell,
Yes.
Beth Johnson,
Yes.
Alice Kelsey,
Yes.
Robin Clay,
Yes.
Pastor Van Beek,
Yes.
and Kimberly Bartnick.
Yes.
That motion passes. The next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there any corrections, subtractions, or any divisions of that consent agenda that anyone would like to take it or avail themselves of? When I say division, that means that you'd like to deal with one of those items separately. We would take that out of the consent agenda. And that's what I am meaning by asking for a division of the question. With that, is there any one that would corrections, additions, or divisions? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So move.
So moved by Robin Clay. Do I hear support? Support by Glenn. Roll call. Pastor Van Beek,
Yes.
Robin Clay,
Yes.
Alice Kelsey,
Yes.
Beth Johnson,
Yes.
Jane Farrell,
Yes.
Gail Dugan says yes. Mark Young,
Yes.
Glenn Brookhouse,
Yes.
Pam Brenner,
Yes.
and Kimberly Bartnick.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is the program committee report with one provision. We do have a public hearing at 5:45. If you're not totally complete or getting close to it, I'll ask you to wrap it up. So with that, Alice, you may have the floor.
Well, I was just gonna say, I have a lot to say, so.
Okay,
Just, I would just say overall, it's just so exciting. It almost just doesn't seem real how wonderful all the news is and, what's changing nationwide, but in particular in Allegan County. So, we got kind of an overview of what was going on. And, we got the, CCBHC, we're now in the state demonstration, and we're now, again, I think we've mentioned it before, that we will be the unique, PHIP, that all of the members, are, CCBHC members. And so there's wonderful opportunities for, they were saying that it's been so helpful to them to be able to contact the other CMHs that have been in the demonstration already, to, not reinvent the wheel and to avoid mistakes that they figured out. And so that's been a great, wonderful thing. One of the things they talked about is just that, it's just kind of changed everything about how we are thinking about and going about providing services. One of the things they talked about is just the incredible and unique service that the peer recovery coaches are offering. And we should have a total of 7 across different programs. That they say that as it's just become an integral role in the treatment team, and that they provide a unique perspective that they really truly are valuing. And the the things they talked about is that that is just a change in mindset, is that she said we can throw out the term eligibility now. Because it doesn't matter if you have insurance, it doesn't matter if you have Medicaid, it doesn't matter
Where you live.
that it just has opened up the door to be able to truly serve people the need that people present. One of the nuts and bolts things that I thought was very interesting is that they do have hired someone new. They've hired someone who has kind of recreated an existing position, and it's a health information manager. So that's the person that's going to make sure that the whole software program works and the billing gets billed correctly and we get paid for every service that we offer. And she was saying that I could see that's a key person. And there's also, they have filled a position that is that's just talking about the electronic medical records part. And we got right at the end, we started talking about the differences in how we're going to get paid. The difference between the old program and CCBHC. And I asked if they would give us kind of a tutorial next month or soon that would explain that. And that might be something that maybe even the whole board might find useful to be able to know what's the differences. And then the very last 2 that we, not only did we get the news that we're going to be part of the state program, but we also got the grant, the IA grant, the $1 million for 4 years grant to kind of hold us over or carry over with that. So it's just incredible what's going on. There, got 1 minute to spare.
Thank you very much, Alan.
Yeah.
Is there any questions or comments for the chairperson of the program committee? Hearing none? Actually, you have 3 minutes.
Oh.
With that,
Could I just say quick?
yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
So this is my idea. So I heard that and I knew we were celebrating, but I also know how much work this is going to require. So I thought, you know what? They need all the caffeine and sugar they can possibly get. So I went to the store today, and that's for the staff to get you through all the work I know you're gonna have to do. So
Very thoughtful. Thank you.
With that, I'll go ahead and I'll come to the next point of business, which is number 7. At 5:45, we are going to have a public hearing on the proposed budget. At this time, I will read the notice that was placed in the county news of the August, Thursday, the August 31st edition. Notice of public hearing. OnPoint 2023-2024 operating budget. The OnPoint Board of Directors will hold a public hearing on the OnPoint proposed 2023-2024 operating budget on Tuesday, September 19th, 2023 at 5:45 p.m. at 540 Jenner Drive, Allegan, Michigan, 49010 in our public boardroom. The proposed ballot budget will be available for inspection at OnPoint's office at 540 Jenner Drive, Allegan, Michigan, 49010, no later than September 8th, 2023, during regular business hours, as well as our website at https Ashmark, OnPoint, Allegan, Board Center. Anyone wishing to speak to the board about the proposed budget may appear at the September 19th meeting or direct written comments to Chairperson Gail Dugan at 540 Jenner Drive, Allegan, Michigan, 49010. Written comments received prior to the meeting will be read into the record of the meeting. Upon completion of public hearing, the OnPoint board will consider the proposed 2023-2024 operating budget, including any changes thereto, prior to making a formal approval at that same meeting. This notice is published by Andre Pierre, OnPoint Chief Financial Officer, here at onpointallegan.org, 540 Jenner Drive, Allegan, Michigan, 49010. And thank you very much, Andre, for putting that in the paper for us. With that said, is there any written information that we need to open and have prepared before the public hearing?
Haven't received anything in writing.
Is it in our packet? The proposed,
Yeah, it's on page 8, starts on page 8.
Page 8 of your packet, Jane. Being that it's like,
everything that follows here? Okay, got it.
at this time, I will open the public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2024 OnPoint budget. Is there anyone that would like to address the board or comment on the proposed budget at this time? Is there anyone online?
There's one person not requesting attention.
Okay. Is there any board comments on the proposed budget? It's gonna probably be the shortest public hearing I've had in quite some time.
We could rise up and protest.
Any other comments? Yes, Alice.
Okay. First of all, I can't believe you got it on 2 pages. That's amazing. You would think the budget would, your monthly report is way longer than that. But, so if I'm gonna just look at the bottom line, right? So I'm looking at, I can't find a big number. I've got revenue versus expenses. And so that's the big number. So we're gonna go from 39 million to, you're proposing 41 million, right? So we're asking for 2 million more-ish. And you think that's enough? I just want to be sure we. Go ahead.
Sure. Go ahead and, if you'd like, answer the question here.
From where I'm at, or? Ready?
So the speaker picks it up for the record.
So to answer your question, Alice, yes, we are, that will be enough. The piece that is not being recognized on the revenue side is the additional $1 million per year that we will be receiving in the IA grant. So that 41 will actually increase. What we want to do is bring forward an accurate budget at the time, so it's a bit conservative. We did not want to be presumptive and put the number in there and then realize that we did not receive the award. So yes, that would be enough, and it covers our expenses, because on the expense side, the 41 million includes all of the costs to deliver the services, not only of the CCBHC, but also if we were awarded the IA grant. So it covers all of our expenses. So we brought forward a conservative budget, and the revenue that we'd be generating even without the IA grant would cover the service delivery.
And then if I just had to say a ballpark, the CCBHC budget is 7 million. Ish, almost 8.
Yes,
Is that right?
yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any, while you're right
Yeah,
there?
right.
Is there any other questions on the budget for Andre to answer, or any one of the board? Yes, Mark.
Just note for your awareness, the next item on the agenda is the finance committee report.
Yes.
During which the budget will be processed as well.
Yes,
And so you'll, board members, we should have another crack at comments during that time if they
that's
wish.
correct.
And this would be really intended for public, but certainly board members can make public comment here too.
Well, I try to extend that
Yeah.
courtesy to the public, which the board is.
Yeah, that's right.
But if there's no other further public questions and no one online, there was no written comments. With that statement being part of the record, I'll give one last chance. I'm going to close this public hearing. Hearing none. Declare the public hearing closed at 5:51. At this time, we are going to go on with the, was there any other, comments from the program? Because I didn't want you to rush through. Okay.
Did I forget anything?
Okay, we're going on with the finance committee report. Chairman Johnson, you have the floor.
Yes, first off, we didn't amend the agenda to put in the fourth motion. Is there a way to do that? We approved the agenda without putting in the motion.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, we can go ahead and have that considered. As of, if you want to make that motion at this time to amend the finance committee report agenda to add 8D.
yeah,
A motion is going to be the approval of the FYI 2023 provider contracts. Because we have the FY 24 contracts. So we need to have the FY 23 contracts extended to the end of the month for the auditor. So if you have that, and is there any question on that amendment to the program agenda? Finance committee report. Hearing none, I entertain a motion for that extent. Mark DeYoung moves, support by Alice. And being that this is procedural, all in favor say yes.
yes.
All opposed, motion carries.
Starting on page 6, what we'll do as we normally do is go through, the action items that we need. And then Andre, you can pick up from there for the financial report. So the first one is on page 6. And the finance committee recommends that the OnPoint board approves the July 2023 disbursements totaling $3,360,250.06. That is my motion.
Motion by Mrs. Johnson. Do I hear a support?
Support.
Support by Pastor Greg Van Beek. Do you want to call any other questions or discussion before I call the roll?
Anybody have any questions? Okay,
Hearing none, this is a money order, so I will go from top to bottom here, bottom to top. Pastor Van Beek,
Yes.
Robin Clay,
yes.
Alice Kelsey,
Yes.
Beth Johnson,
Yes.
Jane Farrell,
Yes.
Gail Dugan says yes. Mark DeYoung,
Yes.
Glenn Brookhouse,
Yes.
Pam Brenner,
Yes.
and Kimberly, we're just paying the bills.
Okay, yes.
Appreciate it. That motion carries.
Okay, on to page 7. This is for the new budget that we just had the public hearing on. So I recommend that the OnPoint board approve the fiscal year 2024 budget with expenditures totaling $41,011,311.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Support.
Just hold on here a minute. I got you on the wrong line there. So. Okay, support was by Robin Clay.
Yep. And then this is the discussion we can pick back up if there's any, that Andre had just a few minutes ago, which was basically the 1 million IA grant is not reflected in this 41 million, but the good part is that the CCBHC expenses are already, budgeted in to it. So it's a very strong budget.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
So now is the board discussion on the public, besides the public hearing, on the 2024 budget that we're proceeding into the next fiscal year, which will start October 1st. Is there any questions or comments that anyone would like to make on that budget at this time?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just curious, because we're gonna be, will we have our own, risk management, rainy day fund at all to be in our budget, or will?
That has not been decided at this time. Whether we are going to be putting that money in aside for risk at the LRA, or if it's going to be a fund here. Basically, if we're not awarded this grant, the IA grant, tomorrow they say, no, it's not gonna come. We have the money to go ahead and take care of those services within the budget that we have. We have already baked it into the figures, as expenses. This is what is anticipated, and we've made that revenue. We've been very conservative, and if that $1 million comes in, that will show an increase. We'll have a budget amendment next month, and we will be amending the budget to show that. So right now, we're geared to providing those services. We just are not at this time able to show that that revenue is coming in for that. Yes, Beth?
Andre, you might have to help me out here, but
Sure.
two major points with this IA grant that's not in here yet is that, Nikki McLaughlin, they had to set up a whole account separate to that. But what I found interesting with it is that she said roughly about 80% of it was for direct services.
Yes.
So that money's going to have to be used for services. So,
That is correct.
that's also kind of a safety net
Mhm.
for those services.
Is there any other questions? Or I'm going to allow Andre to make some comments here and have a back and forth before we approve this. Is there any other questions that the board has? Hearing none. Is there any further comments on the budget presented, Andre?
No, other than, yeah, I'll just close it with this, that we're very proud of this budget. We think it was, there's a lot of thought, a lot of conversation. We went and engaged leadership at all levels, so it was not a top down, it was a collaborative effort because of the seriousness of the CCBHC project for OnPoint. So we want to make sure that we didn't miss something. So I feel very confident and comfortable with this budget, and that we have the right people in place to actually deliver upon it.
Hearing that, we have a motion on the floor made by Ms. Johnson, seconded by Robin Clay, to approve the 2024 budget for OnPoint. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Kimberly,
Yes.
Pam Brenner,
Yes.
Ben Brookhouse,
Yes.
Mark DeYoung. Yes. Gail Dugan, says yes. Jane Farrell. Beth Johnson,
Yes.
Alice Kelsey,
Yes.
Robin Clay,
Yes.
and Pastor Van Beek.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Okay.
Continue.
Yep, moving on. Page 12 is the next action item. And this is for the year 2023. So I recommend that the OnPoint board approve the following list of provider contracts for fiscal year 2023. And they're listed below on page 12.
Is that a motion?
Yes. Second.
Second by Pam. Is there any further discussion of those? Hearing none? Yes.
Just for future reference. This is a huge number of services, and I just like at some point to maybe discuss some of these.
We do.
Yeah.
That's 2024. Go back a page. You go back one page. It's all.
I'm on the top.
Flip it over.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
this is just, that's just,
There you go.
nothing to say.
These are the ones that we had continued last month,
Got it.
and we need to approve them until October 1st. And then the discussion on the, there are 4 pages of providers. We can have that discussion at that time. This is what.
Thank you.
So, well, right now, we're the extension of the 23 contracts. I will call the roll. Is there any further discussion on the 23 contracts? Hearing none. Kimberly Barton,
Yes.
Pam Brenner,
Yes.
Ben Brookhouse,
Yes.
Mark Young,
Yes.
I say yes. Jane Farrell,
Yes.
Beth Johnson,
Yes.
Alice Kelsey,
Yes.
Robin Clay,
Yes.
and Pastor Van Beek.
Yes.
Okay, continue.
All right, one more here. This is for fiscal year 2024. It's the provider list goes from page 13 all the way over to halfway down page 16. So at this point, I recommend that the OnPoint board approve the following list of provider contracts for fiscal year 2024.
That motion has been made. Is there a support?
Support.
Support by Robin Clay. Now discussion. Is there anyone that would like to,
Is there any way,
please?
is there any way of, telling us perhaps how it's evolving, or it's just a list for me. Is there any way of knowing more about in the list?
At this time, those are all been, gone over, interviewed. Track record has to be exemplary to be a provider here for, OnPoint. We have had in the past, provider contracts, in special situations where they did not take care of the bookwork, or they did not apply their, ask for payments, correctly, or in the fashion that's required by the state. We have deleted those contracts, and we've had in the past people that have represented those providers here in this boardroom going, why can't we stay on? And it was explained to them by the executive director that we have certain standards. And some of them have complied and some of them have not. Is there any further that you could have, Mr. Whitty, at this time?
Well, I think if I were to, I would beg for an opportunity for Nikki to be in the room with us to help explain some of this. But I think the thing I would just want to say is if you look at the second column, it describes the nature of the service.
Yes.
We used to not do that, so I'm glad at least we're doing that
Yes.
for you to help. You know, when you see the term supports and services, like for example, with the second item on the list, Acorn Health of Michigan LLC, you'll generally be dealing with the provider that's providing services of one kind or another, community living support services or personal care services for an individual who has either a developmental disability or a person with a serious mental illness that's being served in some community setting. If the need is more extreme or more intense, you might see someone being served in a specialized residential. That's another category that you'll see here.
For the hospital.
Yeah, or hospitals is another example. So the difference is you'll note that there's a lot of those. There's a
Yeah.
lot of those. And those are really supports directly with agencies that provide services to people on our behalf. And there are other kinds of services, that call professional services or consultation services. And those are organizations we work with for, supplying one kind of service or another, but usually more administrative or more professional than direct to the individuals who are serving in the community. But I guess that'd be the kind of the key, the code. And if there's any question about any one particular, I guess I'd say we're happy to entertain that. I've always desired at some point if we could somehow maybe make a third column without creating a book that would describe kind of what specific service that provider provides. Where it gets challenging is that some of those are larger providers
Sure.
that provide many different kinds of services, and you'd really end up with a very lengthy report.
Don't worry.
Yeah, so, but we're very happy to answer the question if you have,
Thank you.
particular interest about any particular item, very happy to share.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have something pop in my head. Yes, we have high standards, but I think the check and balance is, when do we catch them or whatever? Is it through like recipient rights? If one of these contractors come up and recipient rights, or Mandy, I was gonna go to you next. And then I know we had a financial one that Nikki and worked on, so.
Yeah.
But that's how we kind of keep this clean, is by having those checks and balances, correct?
Many, many different kinds of ways, but yeah,
Yeah.
can I ask Mandy to augment what I've said?
And if you'd come up, so you're part of the record, I appreciate that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So just, we have a provider network manager. Her name is Amy Kettering. We could absolutely have her come to a board meeting and give a high level overview of who we contract with and why. And then we can also talk a little bit about the credentialing process and then what we do partnering with the Lakeshore Regional Entity to monitor compliance to the standards, right? So we have a bunch of standards that we draw down from external sources and then internal standards, of course, right? That say things like you must take this training. This is what your background check must or must not reflect, so on and so forth. And so we would be happy to have the provider network manager prepare a presentation and provide it to the board if that's your pleasure.
You're talking about top-down standards, which are good, nothing wrong with that, but if there's an issue, say, in a home or in a
Yes.
center, how do we find out about that from the bottom up?
So it depends on what type of issue it might be and how, so we do both preventative and like sort of reactionary, right? So we have incident reports that our providers submit on a daily basis for any number of things, big or small. And those are funneled through corporate compliance by our corporate compliance specialist and recipient rights. And then the provider network manager, the director of corporate compliance, and the director of recipient rights meet on a monthly basis. And then we bring in our partners over here if we need to, in the clinical side of things so that we can identify, is this a one-off? Is it systemic? Do we see a lot of this? And so that's sort of the self-report piece from the provider, right? And then we also do auditing and monitoring through the provider network and recipient rates, where we go out into homes and we have a set of standards that we draw down, like you said, the top down, that we sort of evaluate compliance. And then we also partner with the Lakeshore Regional Entity for home and community-based service compliance. So it's a bunch of us looking at all different angles. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Perfect.
I'll just add that there are many, many times where if an issue is identified and a correction needs to be made, there's a collegial effort to say, let's oversee that corrective process. And it's not adverse in every case. It's intended to sort of restore good practice or to, if we see an incident that was avoidable, to set in motion the circumstances that would lead to future avoidance. So it's really about improvement.
That's exactly right. And we value our partnerships with our providers and the services that they bring to our community. And so we do everything that we can. Go ahead.
I believe everything I've just been told, but I don't know exactly how the system works, so I often am in the drop-in center in Holland, Michigan, and the director is my housemate. And I hear people talk about I assume this specialized residential care not being very good quality.
In general or just?
Their experience.
Ah,
So
yes.
I'm just wondering whether that's an area where you have more difficulty supervising or whatever.
We will get together. I think this could be like a whole separate systemic conversation,
Good.
right? So I will get with you after and then we'll schedule some time. Sound good?
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other, go ahead.
Yes,
Just an explanation of what the COFR stands for.
County of Financial.
County of Something.
Financial responsibility.
There you go.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I was trying to put those together, but didn't know if other people knew that.
Yeah, that's helpful. Any other questions for me before I go?
just a comment. Some of the foster homes that we help support with patients that have special needs that we cater to are also partnership with MTHHS. And so we help support that system and those individuals within their system. So there's a lot of interconnecting parts to this entire budget that is appropriately discussed at this time. And so if there's any other questions, that we have the people here to answer those questions. So.
Might want to just clarify that point about adult foster care. In the vast majority of cases, when an adult foster care home serves an individual, the room and board costs of that location are paid by the disability checks of the individuals who live there. Our responsibility are for the services being provided to them where they live, whether it's an adult foster care home or other place. So just to be clear, we have a division of responsibilities there, but they coincide because the person lives in the place where they're receiving services.
Thank you very much, Rudy. Is there any other further questions on the budget? Is there any further comments, Andre, that you have for us?
No. I was.
Momentarily.
Okay.
Okay. We now have a motion that has been submitted that is moved by Mrs. Johnson, supported by Robin Clay for the 2024 provider contracts. Is there any further discussion at this time? Yes. Did you say?
Sorry.
Well, I heard something while I was turned here, so.
Sorry.
Okay. Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Jane Farrell,
Yes.
Beth Johnson,
Yes.
Alice Kelsey,
Yes.
Robin Clay,
Yes.
Esther Van Beek,
Yes.
Kimberly Bartman,
Yes.
Pam Brenner,
Yes.
Glenn Brookhouse,
Yes.
Art DeYoung,
Yes.
and I say yes. Those have been approved. Is anything further in your report?
Andre, is there any more you'd like to go over for this past month's report? It's up to you. In the committee, it was a very strong
Yes.
report. Probably one of the biggest things was when the building depreciation moved in, right?
Yes.
Okay, you can come up and finish up. I'm kind of babbling.
Yeah. No, you're not. No, you're not. So, the month of July, we're still in a very strong financial position. I'm not concerned with our financial position at all. We are, for the month of July, we ended at a net position of 1.5 million. So we've got plenty of surplus, which is a good position to be in. Part of the reason that number is so high is because the MEDC grant, so the grant award that we received to actually move into this building, to purchase this building, that revenue is being recognized currently, but the expense for it is not. So what Beth was referring to is that the depreciation for this building is just starting. So those small chunks, and I forgot the exact numbers, like $38,000 or something like that, a month of depreciation, is just starting to hit our financial statement. So that's why it looks very, very strong. But even if we were to fully account for a year's worth of that, we still have over $1 million of surplus that OnPoint is experiencing. And we are looking to utilize that. So do we want to mention the retention? Okay. So one of the ways that we are going to use some of that surplus before the end of this fiscal year, another couple of weeks, is a retention bonus or retention recognition for several of the employees in the tune of 5% of the year-to-date wages that they've had. One, it recognizes the efforts that have been put forward, but also in this competitive market with all of our sister organizations competing for the same talent and open positions for CCBHC demonstration, that we are hoping that we can also retain a lot of the talent that we have here at OnPoint, because they do great work. We're very proud of them, and we've got a lot of work to do. So with the surplus, we wanted to make the effort to recognize our staff. So that is going to reduce that surplus by about $460,000. Employees will be receiving that payout here this coming Friday.
All of the employees?
Yes. All of the employees that are current, let me be very specific, that are current and have not tendered their resignation before the 20th.
Yes.
Or the 20th. So if they're in good standing and have not tendered their resignation before the 20th, they will receive the payout this coming Friday. But that will still leave put OnPoint in a surplus position, ending the fiscal year somewhere around $400,000 or $500,000, I believe.
Yes.
On another note,
Yes.
I usually, the cost settlements with the LRE, we just got done with 2022 or in the process
That
of
is
wrapping that up. And we're as current
as of 2022.
two.
That's
But,
correct.
and for this year, we're as current as the
July.
month of July.
That is correct.
Which is good.
Which is a very good position for us.
Two things that are getting cleaned up.
Yes, so we're trying to stay on top of what's owed. So when we present financial statements to the board and becomes visible to the public, they're as accurate as we can have them without a lot of lag.
Are there any further questions or comments? Yes, Alice.
That's awesome. That's way better than coffee and cookies.
That's pretty good too. This thing's nice, but when we're sitting here working on stuff, the chocolate. That's pretty nice.
Good.
Is there
And I'd love the fact that we're not sending $1.5 million back. I mean, that's,
Oh, yeah.
it's. Yes, the LRE needs, we all dip into that every once in a while when we need to, but it's just nice to know that that it's closer. Our budget and our expenses are closer because, I think then we feel like, okay, yep, we got a little extra, yep, we'll.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman, just
Mr.
for context, if I can just throw in the additional comment that, this is a year that we did not offer a cost of living adjustment for individuals who are in employment. And so, lest we get maybe too impressed with the fact that this is a benefit for our staff, I just want to make sure you understand it's also a conservative expenditure because it takes the place of what otherwise would have been a cost of living adjustment perhaps. And it doesn't go to the base of any of the employees who receive it, so it's not elevating their salary to the next level for future purposes. So it is a good thing. I don't want to put any, any cold water on it. But it is really a conservative thing to do because we weren't sure about next year's resources either.
Yes, Alice.
Well, that makes me wonder, is there any cost of living in the budget?
So, okay, yeah, so let me clarify. There's two things that happen with employees. There's the step increase, okay, so up on their anniversary date, which is 2.5%. That is put in here. Okay, what is not in here is the cost of living. So the additional 3.5% or 4% that OnPoint has historically done, that is not in here. The reason being is because we still have not received our finalized revenue from the state at all. We believe we're pretty close, but you're talking to a finance person, so I want to see the exact number. I believe our number, and we're really, really close, so I don't think there's gonna have to be any significant amendment to the budget at all. But we don't want to put something out that we would have to retract.
Right.
Right? So we don't want to do that to employees. So what we have shared is that there will not be a COLA, but we will revisit it in January.
Good.
Okay, once we have a better understanding of how our CCBHC demonstration is going, how we're delivering upon that, but also what our revenue ends up looking like. So we will revisit it, but that is not in here. Be very clear, the COLA, cost of living, is not in here.
Well, any other questions for Andre? Right. Okay, thank you. And that concludes the finance report.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
With that, next on the agenda is any comments from recipient rights, Glenn, at this time?
Comment, I would say we did not meet or anything, but our meeting will not be in November. It will actually be in December to coincide with the yearly.
Yes. Okay. You make that correction to your agenda here, so everyone has it. Next on the agenda is the chairman executive committee report. We met on Friday, September 15th. We had a compliance update by Mandy Patchen. We have a good partnership going with auditing and provider network meetings. She's reviewing our current compliance plan and policies and asked for some of our input for their development prior to next May's board meeting when we want to approve those policies. She also briefed the group on the LRE request for data to comply with the MDHHS's disclosure of ownership of requirements. We also going to have her back in November for further addressing of different issues. As to board was acquainted with Jane Farrell, who was approved by the Allegan County Board of Commissioners at their last meeting. The LRE board, we have looked at finding an internal candidate, which I will present to you later in my report. The board email addresses, right now, we're going to leave those alone as to pending the new executive director being hired. We reviewed the key board tasks that we are needing to do for this month, and we've accomplished quite a few of them already this evening. The squishiness of some of the revenue estimates for the next year, based on the variables of the pandemic, Medicaid eligibility, wind down, things of that nature. We discussed that. We're going to keep a close eye on how those roll out and what the percentage of things that people that re-enlist or where they're at as we go forward. The other, discussion was the CMHA October member assembly. We're going to deal with those delegates that are needed for that. And we also asked, a question was asked by the general fund which is an anomaly this year because we usually use all that money. But in this year, there's an anomaly where we're sending part of that money back to the state because we weren't in a position to use it as well and as efficient as we usually do. That's the end of the executive committee report minutes. With that, going on to the businesses that we had added to the agenda. At this time, I would like to appoint to the LRE position that is vacant, Pastor Craig Van Beek. He has graciously stepped up to be part of that organization. So I would put in his appointment for confirmation at this time. Do I hear a motion to confirm? So moved. Motion by Mark DeYoung. Support by Beth Johnson. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call. Kimberly Bartlett,
Yes.
Sam Brenner,
Yes.
Glenn Brookhouse,
Yes.
Mark DeYoung,
Yes.
Gail Dugan says yes. Jane Farrell,
Yes.
Beth Johnson,
Yes.
Alice Kelsey,
Yes.
Robin Clay,
Yes.
and Pastor Van Beek. If you'd like to abstain, you can.
I'll abstain.
You, what?
Yes.
I was teasing you on that one.
That's not a seasoning, see what you say?
And the next piece of business that we need to take care of is appointment of delegates to the yearly convention of the CMHA. I am going to place into nomination or appoint. Are they nominations or
Their appointments.
their appointments? At this time, I would like to appoint our executive director, Mark Whitty, our past LRE chair, Mark DeYoung, myself as chair, so I can be at the chairman's meeting, and Glenn Brookhouse to go to those, to the annual CMHA meeting. Is there, yes,
We're allowed 2 board members. You may certainly have an alternate. But we need 2 on the board member side.
okay. Is there anyone else that would like to go to the CMH?
You've got
CMHA meeting?
DeYoung, Dugan, and Brookhouse would be the third, but that would be potentially an alternate position.
You're making.
Director and 2 board members.
Director and two board
They
members.
just named 4.
And Mr. Brookhouse would be an alternate,
That would be the way it play, I think.
okay? Are you acceptable to an alternate position?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Very complicated.
with that said, is there any discussion of those appointments? Entertain a motion to do that?
I move to approve the conference delegates to be Dugan and DeYoung, with Workhouse being an alternate.
Do I hear support?
Support.
Support by Alice. I'll start the voting at the bottom of the list today. This time, Pastor Van Beek,
Yes.
Robin Clay,
Yes.
Alice Kelsey,
Yes.
Beth Johnson,
Yes.
Jane Farrell,
Yes.
Mark DeYoung,
Yes.
Ben Brookhouse,
Yes.
Pam Brenner,
Yes.
Kimberly Barton,
Yes.
and I say yes too. That motion carries. And with that, that is the end of my report. Is there any questions for me for the report? Hearing none, thank you very much. Do we have someone from the LRE?
Stephanie Vanquay is online.
Stephanie, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Our new system here, we have 4 different blocks on our screen, so you're a little bit smaller than tonight, but I'm glad you're here. You have the floor.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. My apologies for not being there in person. I will do my best to get there next month. Just a couple updates for you. Just wanted the group to know that we had a meeting yesterday with MDHHS regarding provider network, and it went very well. And they are planning to come back, specifically MDHHS. There's 2 staff, Amanda Zapor and June White, are planning to come to LRE on October 18th to do an in-person site visit with us. So we look forward to that. The other thing I wanted to mention is effective today, all paid cost settlement dollars have gone out the door. The last payment went out today to Health West, so we're settled on that. The other thing I wanted to mention is in my department, we manage contracts. We are working round the clock to get contracts ready for next week, so that we can make sure that they are sent out in time for October 1 start date for our providers. So we're working on that. And then one other thing I did want to mention as well too, for our board, our October board meeting, we will be having Wakely, which is a company that's an actuarial firm, do a presentation for us at our morning work session. In case anyone has interest in it, it begins at 11 a.m. And specifically, what we're having them do is an ISF analysis. That's the Internal Service Fund. If you didn't know what that was, kind of consider it more of a rainy day fund is my best way to describe that. We will be having them give an analysis to our board on what they recommend we should be placing into ISF, and to also ensure that we are not withholding more than what we should be. So that will be discussed at that October meeting. And then lastly, we are still working through our board governance policies. We are going to be taking them one at a time to our board. So one will be at our board meeting next week, and one will continue in October, et cetera, until we get those completed. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. There's so much going on at LRE, I could probably be here all night, so I will stop there.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Is there any questions for Stephanie at this time from the board? One comment, if I recollect right, we've already empowered Mr. Whitty to sign those contracts when they're sent.
Correct, for the LRE contract, but for the state contract, yes, I'll come back when it's time for the state contract, or for the LRE contract.
All right. Thank you very much for your time this evening and the report.
Thank you.
Flipping over on the backside of your page, the next on our agenda is the OnPoint Executive Director's Report. Mr. Whitty.
Well, I hope I misunderstood you
I did too. Yeah.
during your chairman's report. You mentioned something about, when we hire the next executive director, we will, take care of that email thing. I assume he meant the executive assistant. I'm sure that was the case. But perhaps we'll have a meeting after the meeting.
We will have a meeting.
So anyway, most of what I have to report on has been talked about in one form or another. Probably the piece just to kind of bring to your attention that we really didn't talk about is some of the community items that I put down. That has to do with changes and happenings with the United Way and the transition to the Community Foundation. I think the takeaway, if you didn't want to read a word, is just to say that where the United Way has been involved in the past in supporting some of the programs and services in our community, Allegan County Community Foundation is stepping up to take on some of those responsibilities. The piece you'll want to pay probably some attention to as we go is the issue of the housing studies that are going on. There's a concerted effort to take a good long look at Allegan County's housing situation. Where do we have adequate housing? Where do we have needs? And an organization known as Bowen has done a 320-page study that has been received. It's extraordinarily detailed. And the question is, what do we do with that information? So a number of meetings are being scheduled with community leaders to take inventory on the report and really make decisions about what's next. You might wonder, well, what is an organization like us, even with a housing department that focuses on homelessness, what do we really have to do with the broader issues of housing in the community? If a family moves here from another community and wants to build a house, is that anything of Allegan County CMH's or OnPoint's concern? Honestly, no, except for that the people we serve in the homelessness arena have to have options at differing price levels and especially at lower price levels. And so the adequacy of the housing stock in the community to begin with is a part of our concern. So what we sort of, I don't know if it's the right way of thinking about it or not, but we're a good barometer on the adequacy of the community's housing stock. Because the service, the needs that fall through that we can't resolve by finding safe, supportive, affordable housing options really reflects poorly on the community's housing stock. So we will be at the table, partly as a participant in the collaboration that needs to go on, but partly as an indicator of what the safety net is experiencing, so that as time goes by, we certainly can reflect that to the community's leadership as we go. I'm really grateful that the county commission has taken the position of being involved. You know, there are some commissions that might make the decision to say, well, you know, that's an economic development issue that we care about, but we're not particularly, it's not our job per se. It might be more of localities or cities, villages and so forth, townships. But I think our commission has taken an appropriate role to say we have a role to play in here. Not the only role, but we have a role to play. So I'm thankful for that, Mr. Chairman. If you can convey that back to the Board of Commissioners, I'll be there with the group next week, whatever we meet next, 28th, I think. So with that, I think I'll just let you ask questions if you might have them. Otherwise, my report's my report.
Is there any questions for Mr. Whitty on his executive report that's been presented?
Relieved you're still on.
Hearing none, thank you very much for your time this evening. Next on the agenda is board comment, the provision for public comment, I should say. Is there anyone at this time that would like to address the board again? Or take the pleasure up? Is there anyone online? No, sir. Second call. Public comment is closed at this time. Board member comments. So we're on this side.
Thank you.
Just good work on the new budget. Staying within our means and hopefully we can continue that through the year.
Yeah.
Good.
That it?
Yep.
Alice,
Also.
Kimberly,
Also.
Mr. Farrell. At this time, I would like to extend our warm welcome to you, becoming a member of our board, Ms. Farrell, and look forward to working with you for a long time. So I appreciate you willingness to step up and be part of this community. And with that, the ability of our community to serve the needs of our county, I'm still amazed at the abilities that our staff has and that what they bring to the table. Thank you very much from this board for all those abilities. And we appreciate what you do for Allegan County. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Support.
Support by Alice. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed can stay. Motion carries. Thank you very much for coming to see you. Stand adjourned at 6:39.